Hi, it's Jeremy Shatton from An Earful. Last Saturday, I went to the Brooklyn Flea Record Fair. I hadn't been there in years. And it's in Williamsburg, right next to Smorgasburg, so there's great food and drink in Marsha P. Johnson State Park. And next door to Smorgasburg were all the tents with the record vendors, and it was almost overwhelming. There was at least a dozen labels represented there and distributors. I chatted with some of those people, connected on upcoming releases, talked about some of their finer releases of this year, some of their bands that are going on tour. Really good to chat with them. But then I got drawn in by the used vendors, and there were probably at least 20 used vendors there. And the first one I had to go to was Carolina Soul. They were attracting quite a crowd. They had a sign that said, every record, $6. And if you find 4 that you want, then they're $5 each. So 4 records for $20. They had a whole lot of records there, and a whole lot of them were in bad condition with side splits and scratches that you could see all over the records. Some of them were not even in the sleeve. It was a bit like digging in at somebody's basement or something. But I started to find good stuff. And the first thing I found that I knew I wanted was Planet Waves by Bob Dylan. I have it on CD, but I've always wanted to have an original vinyl copy of it, and that's what this is. The cover's in a little bit chewed up over here, but the vinyl's in beautiful shape, and it's an original Asylum pressing. For a little while, he left Columbia and was on Asylum, and then he came back to Columbia, and they deleted all the Asylum records and reissued them on Columbia. This one has a cutout, which was probably from around that time when they were like, we got to get rid of these Asylum ones. But anyway, I'm really glad to have it. Next, I found this. Live Peace in Toronto, the Plastic Ono Band. Now, I know this is not all we had hoped it would be, but it's still got some great stuff on it. I love the version of Your Blues. It's one of my favorite Beatles songs. Cold Turkey. The Yoko experiments on the other side are interesting. She's always interesting to me. And this is an original Apple pressing. Why not have it in my collection? It's John Lennon, for God's sake. Next, I found this. Isaac Hayes, To Be Continued. Now, this is the album after the Isaac Hayes movement, which was the album after Hot Buttered Soul. So I think the market and critics and maybe even the audience, although this did go gold, obviously, were not as fixated on it as they were as Hot Buttered Soul, and then the one that came after this, which is Black Moses. Double album with the fold-out cover, just an extraordinary statement. But this is just as good as those. It's actually better than the Isaac Hayes movement. This has Our Day Will Come with that unforgettable arrangement. The Look of Love, another great take. You've Lost That Love and Feeling. It's just so great, and I'm so glad to have it. I've never owned it in any form. Then I took a flyer on this slightly racy cover. I was attracted by the texture, by the painting, and I looked inside and realized it was none other than Jose Feliciano. This is from 1971. It's called Of Muse and Man. It's been released with a different cover. I guess this one was maybe a little too suggestive for the market, but this is the original cover. It starts out with an original by him, a number of originals, and then it gets a little questionable because I'm not the biggest Elton John fan, and he has 2 Elton John covers on here, Take Me to the Pilot and Border Song. We'll give it a try. He also covers Wild World by Cat Stevens, which is a song I probably heard too many times to really appreciate at this point. But I'm interested in it. I actually like Jose Feliciano around this time. There's an album called Sold from, I think, 69 that's really good. Don't turn it down if you ever find it. Finally, I moved on, found 4 records, $20, moved on to another vendor, and I found this, the Diva soundtrack. I think my sister might have had this at some point. And I love the movie. It was so stylish and stylized, and the soundtrack was just everywhere at the time. So we'll see how it holds up, but it was only a few bucks, and it's not on any streaming service, so it's kind of a forgotten thing at this point. You can find, if you go on Spotify, there's people who have lovingly constructed playlists that approximate the track list, but nothing like the real thing, right? Then, next door to that, I found this, a nicely cared for copy of Gaucho, the final Steely Dan album of their original period, and the only one that I don't have. So I was super excited about it. Now you might say to yourself, why would I not have it? I'm a huge Steely Dan fan. Here's the thing. I bought Asia when it came out, loved it, it's fantastic. Gaucho came out 3 years later. I was in a different place, they were in a different place. My brother bought the record, I heard it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like Hey 19. It just rubbed me the wrong way. We were not aligned. A few years later, I was actually in my brother's apartment painting it for him. I think he had promised to take me on a shopping spree to Tower Records if I painted his apartment. How am I going to turn that down? Anyway, I'm in there and I'm flipping through his records and I was like, Gaucho, let me try that one again. At this point, I'd been in college. I was a little more sophisticated, maybe. I don't know. Put on the record. Let's just say I didn't get much painting done for the next 10 minutes as I was just blown away. Babylon Sisters. What an amazing track. That Bernard Purdie shuffle and the bassoons or the bass clarinets or whatever's going on there. Oh my God. So good. I was stunned. But then I never actually found the record again. The box set came out, Citizen Steely Dan, had all the songs. I was satisfied. But after a while, you have all those records on your shelf, everything from Camp I Thrill through Asia, and I just wanted to have Gaucho there. I just wanted to be able to listen to it on my turntable. And now I can. Psyched. Now another one I was looking for, just the day before, I was working on a Twitter poll, and one of the albums that was under consideration was Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones. And I was like, wait a minute, why don't I have that record? I don't know why. I never bought it on CD, never bought it on vinyl during high school, and it is such a great album. And there it was. A nice US pressing with a little bit of wrinkling there, looked in decent shape, marked at $18. I negotiated and got it down to $15. Made me feel a little more comfortable buying it. But now I have Let It Bleed. Can't wait to listen to it. One of my favorite Stones, deep cuts, if you will. Live With Me. What a great song. I don't know if it's a deep cut, but it's not one you hear people talk about too much these days. Then I saw a guy who had a cart with the $1 and $2 records, and I thought, well, what are the chances I'm going to find anything good there? I should be happy with what I've already got. But right near the front was this Tim Moore album. I thought, he looks like a sensitive young man. And I kind of like these, what I call studio folk records. They're like singer-songwriter folk rock with a little more polish than some. I looked on the back. It's got string arrangements. It's got Russ Kunkel on drums, Bernard Purdie on drums, him again. Howard Johnson, baritone sax. I mean, this is a classy group of people. So I thought I'm going to give it a try, and I happened to go on to AllMusic. I think they give it 4.5 stars. Apparently this is one of the great lost singer-songwriter records of the 70s. We'll find out. If it isn't, we'll see what happens. And that's what I got at the Brooklyn Flea Record Fair. So excited to listen to all these things. Thank you for watching. And go to record fairs. You never know what you might see. Jeremy Shatton signing off.